all the materials that I'll be using for today's tutorial. I'm going to be using some size 11 Miyuki Delica, and they are in colors. There's like a very beautiful blue denim. There's a glazed AB mustard yellow, an opaque sienna frosted matte. There's a silver lined root beer and a basic white, which is the DB200. And again, these are size 11 Delicas, and so I am going to be using them with the finding that is designed for larger beads. So in the previous tutorials, I've been showing these with some size 10 Delicas, and they work 1-for-1 with those. And they also work 1-for-1 with size 10 cylinder beads from Matubo. They work with size 10 Czech Preciosa Ornella. They also work with a size 11 Toho, because Toho tends to be a little bit of a bigger bead. So to give you actual measurements, you're looking for something that's around 1.4 millimeters if measured, where you would take the calipers and pinch it, like the hole's running this way, and you would pinch it this way. So this measurement here, that about 1.4 is what you're going for this finding. I found something that works though. And because I love using my 11-0s, I have a lot of them, and I really wanted to finish this bracelet with an 11-0, which is made with 11-0. I really wanted to finish it with my findings. So what I did is I designed it in 2-drop. And what I found is, although it is not 100% perfect, it works, doesn't it? So just take a quick look at that and tell me what you think. It's kind of like, you can drop in the comments if you think this is a little wonky. What ends up happening is it kind of brings this down into a V shape. And so in the interim, while we await the 11-0 sized one, I have created this kind of improvisation. So if you like it, go for it. If you don't, you can always finish this the old way, like where we used to do a nice little button and do a little fold over tab and put a little leather on it, or however you like to finish your 11-0 bracelets. But this is one thing that I thought worked pretty good. So that's what I'm going to show you today. I'm also just going to show you starting it, and I'm going to show reading the pattern really quick, because 2-drops, known to a lot of you but unknown to some, so I'm just going to show that really quick. And the other materials that I'll be using are this beautiful thread. So what's this color here? I know that it's denim blue. It's not saying on there, but it is. But color 17. And when I bought it, it was more like a dark denim dusky blue. And so that is perfect next to the dusky blue color in there. And so of course, the findings, as I mentioned, I've got a stainless lobster claw and some matching jump rings. I'm also going to be using a size 12 beading needle. All right, so what I've done here is I have laid out the colors in order as they appear on the pattern. And the pattern is showing the blue, and then we go to the sienna, the mustard, the root beer, and the white. And this is a visual of it, but I tend to work from the word chart. I think it's easier. And so that's how I'm going to be demoing. Now this word chart prints out in a way that just shows you the total number of each color in order. And if there's more than one of the same color next to each other, it'll add them. When we're doing a 2-drop peyote stitch, we have to kind of pull that apart a little bit. So for example, here, the first 2 beads we pick up for that stitch would be 1 and E, and I'm going to show this, and then the next 2 stitches would be 2A and 2A, and so on. It'll work like that. And it actually is pretty intuitive. It doesn't confuse me when I'm working through them. I think most people who've worked these with me have said that it makes sense, but always drop me a line if you think there's something I could do better on that. I've thought about maybe pulling this into Excel and making it block out 2, 2, 2, 2, and I could do that. It would just take a while, and I would make one less pattern that day. So definitely just something to think about. But let me show you how to get started on this pattern in 2-drop peyote. So I went ahead and cut a comfortable working length of my thread, and I threaded on my beading needle. And the next thing I want to do is just go look at that first row on the pattern. The first row here is just to pick up 12A. So super simple, we're just going to pick up 12A. And there we go, there's 12A. And let's zoom in on that. All right, so 12A. Next thing we want to do is we're going to need to pick up the following beads in order of 2s. So for the first one, we want to pick up 1A and 1E. So So here's my A and one E. And over here, I left my first 12 beads with about a 12-inch tail. And that's going to be handy for putting on the clasp at the end, so save that. And again, we just strung the 1A and the 1E. And they're here on the strand, just coming up here. And I'm zoomed in quite a lot, so there's a lot more strand going on over here. But the general way to do a 2-drop peyote is you just want to skip the first 2 beads that were in the 12 we strung, and now we're going to go through the next 2. So just take your time with that. And I'm actually pinching everything here under my thumb, particularly this part, because I don't want to lose my 12-inch tail as I do this pull through. And when you get close like this, just go ahead and pull that working and tail thread apart. Don't worry about these other beads over here, just let them hang out for a minute. But on this side, you're going to get this little pop right here. And that's your first 2-drop peyote. Next, we're going to need 2A. On the pattern, it says 4A. We're going to break that up into 2. We're going to go 2 and 2. So there's 2 here. And then 2. I skipped 2 in the row, right? I'm going to go through the next 2. Pull that all the way through. And again, I'm going to pull that working and tail thread apart. And you can see that nice little pop there. Okay, we just need to do that one more time. And it's the same counts and the same bead color. So you've got the 2A here. Skip the next 2. Go through the 2 after that. And there we go. All right, and after each one of those, I went ahead and just pulled the working and tail thread apart to tighten everything up. Take a quick look at what you've got. This is the first 3 rows of your pattern. The side with the white bead, the color E, that's the side we're going to work into because that's row 3. We know it's row 3 because it's got the white bead on it. And so it's just the only thing to think about. But if you were to flip that, the pattern would actually still work. It's just a star that appears on the bracelet. Let me show you on the finished one. And so you can see that it's this side right here, the little star. So the next rows are pretty easy. And for the next 3 rows, we just need to work 6A. So that means 2A, 2A, 2A. And we'll do that for 3 rows. And then come back to this as the next row, and so on. So let's do a few rows together until you get the hang of it. And then we'll skip ahead and we'll put the clasp on it. So I've just picked up 2A. And just take a look at where we're at here. I want to make sure I'm working into the side that has the white bead. So I'm going to just go right through here. And I want to go through both of those 2 beads. These are what you call the up bead. And in a single bead peyote stitch, it would be the same thing. Things might move around on you this first stitch. Mine is doing that now. So again, if that happens to you, just grab that tail and the working side. Tighten it up and you'll get everything back. But this is what we're going for. We're taking those 2 new beads and we're going through the 2 up beads. It's the one sticking up right there. And it won't loosen on you anymore after we get past this first set of rows here. So now I'm going to tighten by pulling this way, tighten by pulling this way. Take a look. And what we want to do is put 2A here and 2A here. So each time you're going to pick up 2 and skip the next 2 and go through the next 2. And it's easy to see because the ones you want to go through are now sticking up. All right, so let's get these 2 to go through the next 2 up beads. And for these first rows, I often just use my tail thread as a way to pull. See what I'm doing here? Keeping everything nice and tight. Things get a little loose in those first, I don't know, 4, maybe even 5 rows. But after this, it gets a lot easier. So stick with it. If it's moving around on you, just go ahead and I'll show one more trick here actually. So there's row 4 completed. Now if you're finding that, like I'm finding, things are really moving around on you, the beautiful thread that I'm using is also very slicky, so it makes gorgeous fringe as well. But for peyote stitch, it can be a little bit, you know, especially getting those first few rows going. So one trick you can do, and this works for all peyote stitch applications, is after you finish a row, you can just come back through. So I went back through the two that were adjacent there, and then just come back up through this one. Now everything's going to stay tight, and I'm going to give that another little tight pull by putting my thumbnail here. Just pull that tight. Let's do the next row. We have 2 more rows to do that are all color A. Just coming back through those up beads here and pull down. Here's the next ones. And here we go. I want to show this really quick. Here's my end. This might happen to you too. It's just loosened and tightened in all the wrong places. So what I'm going to do is go through those 2 up beads. And you can still recognize them. They're these edges ones. It's going to fix that when we come through here. And then just pull tight. You can even pull those apart. And now we're sailing. It's all going to be easier from here. Here's how to count your rows to figure out where you are. I'm going to hold this up a little closer. Count each of the edge, keep in mind we're treating these stacks of 2 as 1 bead. So you want to count your edge beads as 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. So now I know I'm going into row 6. And if you ever lose your place in your pattern, that really helps. As you get going to where it's, you know, not convenient to count like a lot, there's another pattern trick I'll share for marking your pattern. But for now, we know that we just finished row 5, and now we want to go to row 6. So it's going to be 6A. Let's just pick those up. Here's my first 2 beads. So here's my 2A, working in sets of 2 because we're dealing with 2-drop peyote. It's the same as if you were working with 1, you'd still get that same annotation in the pattern where it would tell you how many. You would just be picking up each of those 6A as 1, 1, 1, 1, and instead we get to do it as 2, which makes this a lot faster. And 2. Okay. So as you get going, it can help to actually mark your pattern. And so I try to keep a pencil handy and an eraser that's really good, that erases. But so for example, if I had to stop right now and I wanted to remember where I was without having to go and count all my beads, that's handy when you get to like 100 rows, right? I would just come here and just put a little mark. At the end, I just finished row 6. And then when I come back to work and sit down again, just erase that and keep going. You can also use a ruler. And when I start working on these for long periods of time, I've got a ruler going to help me keep track of where I am. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to make one more row just to show you one more, and then we will jump ahead to the finished bracelet, which is always fun to see. Wish I could do that in real life, right? But I'm going to do this next row, which is 4A, and then 1E, 1A. So what that's going to look like as I pick them up, I'm going to pick up 2A, 2A, and then my last add will be E and A. So here's the 2A. And 2A again. And again, each one just going through that next up bead. And for this next section, I need to do 1E, which is our star color, and then another A. Go through the up bead, tighten that up. There we go. And here it is, ta-da! I finished stitching this up and it came out so beautiful. And so what I'm going to do now is show you how to put the finding on. And once again, like I was saying at the beginning, these findings are the even count peyote stitching. That was designed for even count for maybe like a little bit larger 11-0 or a size 10-0 bead. Now, these are 11-0 Miyuki Delica, and they're a smidge small to use with this finding in a 1-for-1 stitch, meaning like a single drop peyote. But what I found, and it was really cool how it worked out, but in this 2-drop peyote design with 11-0 Delica, I was able to get it to work. It's not perfect, but it looks nice and it wears nice on the wrist. It's flat when you clasp it, and if you look real close at it, you can see. Let me go a little closer. You can see that it kind of makes this kind of bow in just a little bit, but I felt like that was okay, and so I went with it, and I have been wearing this one a lot. It's currently like my favorite bracelet, and this does not bother me. But that said, I wanted to make sure I pointed out in case anyone's looking at it and they're thinking, it is not 100% designed for 11-0 Delica, so of course it's not going to be perfect, but it could be finished in other ways. Like, for example, you could put a button on it and a leather closure. I like to do that a lot. So completely up to you. But if you like this, it's lightweight. And like I was saying before, it wears really nice flat on the wrist. It clasps really beautifully. And so I'm going to show you how I did that. It's a little different than the 1-for-1 way that we were stitching in when we were just doing single drop peyote with this. So because it's a little different, I'm going to show you each side. Okay. So you'll need a few more of the 11-0 beads that you are working with to make the bracelet. So I completed the whole pattern as it was in the pattern that I shared. And so, and again, that pattern is in the description to this video. I've got a few more extra of my main color beads here. And let's start with this side since I have my needle still on this one. And what it's gonna look like is I found that you can just kind of look at it, just like place it on the piece and look and see, like, where does it look good to you? And I thought it looked good just like that. So what I need is one more 11-0, and then I want to go through the finding. I'm treating this finding as the second bead in my 2-drop, right? So if we were continuing on this bracelet, just for example, you would pick up 2 beads, right? You'd pick up 2, and you would go through the next up beads, which are these, right? I'm doing the same thing. I'm just treating this part of the connector here as my second bead. And yeah, it's a little wider than an 11-0 Delica, but here's how it's going to work. Let's get that to come over just like that. And I wanted to say, as I'm doing this, you can feel free to try different configurations of this. This is not the only way that it'll attach. There's other ways you can do it. And so the next thing I want to do is I want to get over here and do this connection. So I need to weave through the rest of these to get there. So let's just do that really quick. Go through these 2. And through. And I'm going to go through this one. And through. Okay. And it's still a little bit loose. Just stick with it for now. We'll get everything tightened up and reinforced. Take a quick look at where we are. I'm going to go through the finding now, add another bead, and then go through the last 2, the 2 up beads. So these are my 2 up beads that I have remaining in the row. This is going to be my next bead, and I need one more 11-0 bead. So I'm going to go through the finding. Pick up one more 11-0, and then go through those last 2 up beads there. And here's how it looks before it's reinforced. Yeah, it's just all kind of meh. When you reinforce this, and we'll do that together on this side, it will tighten up. And when it tightens up, what it'll do is it'll take this section and kind of make it maybe bow in a little bit. So I'm just doing this. I go back through. Okay, and so I'm exiting from those two right there. Do you see the ones that are just below the where we put the finding and the extra 11-0? Watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to make a circle. I go down through these two. So just reinforcing, okay? Just down. Let's go back through right here. I found that that made it strong. Made it sit right where I wanted it to. Keep that from getting lost in there. So there's that one. That's already super strong. Let's travel. We're just making a trip over to the other side now. And go through any beads you like. I'm aiming for over here. Okay, so I'm exiting from these two now. That's these two. I'm exiting from that edge one here. Go through the finding and the next bead. And there you go. So let's make that reinforced. So go back through here, back through here, and everything should just stay right like that for you. And so if you're getting the situation where this bead just kind of, let me show you again, where that bead does this on you. I'll make it do that more exaggerated. You know where it's not staying exactly sideways. I had that happen on one side, but not the other. It's kind of weird, but what I did to fix it on this side was I went back down through just that first bead. So the first one in that 2-drop configuration. You gotta kind of wiggle your needle around to get through it. Come down, and come back up through that bead. Just that edge one. When you do that, it should lock in everything like that and make it stop doing that wonky little side thing. So now we just need to weave in. And from where I am here, I toyed with 2 ideas. Let me share them. Because, you know, this is kind of just something you could do lots of different ways. If you don't mind your thread showing and you really want that bead to stay locked down, you could just come back through the finding and carry on. And that's truthfully what I did on mine. A lot of people really don't want a thread showing, and I respect that. So if you don't like that, you can just go right back through here and then just start going. And just weave in, weave around. Either way, it's gonna work. And like I said before, if you wanted to finish this bracelet in a different way, hang tight and wait for us to come out with the designed for it 11-0 Delica finding, which is coming. It's one of my dreams, and I'm going to just keep knocking on that door, if you know what I mean. It's on the way. Things take time. That's one of the things I've been trying to teach myself lately. While I'm doing weaving and I get really philosophical, but I've been trying to get myself to be patient. And I'm not a super patient person. It's surprising because I'm a seed beater, right? Like, talk about needing patience, but this is different. When it's something that is really important to you, it can be really hard to say, okay, 4 months is a good lead time for that. 5 months is a good lead time for that. Even though you're ready now, right? And you know it's possible, and you're just thinking how quick I would do it if I could just like go in my garage and just like whip this thing up and right. But life doesn't work that way. Danielle needs to catch up with that. So there it is. Okay, that's one side all set, and I like the way it looks. I really loved it. Like I said, I've been wearing mine all around, and I love how it came out. And it doesn't bother me that it kind of whoops in like that a little bit. Okay, so let's trim that. I'm gonna get flush cutters. Hang tight. I got flush cutters right here, and I trim that right there. You're done. Okay, and so there's that side. Let's do the other side. I need to get a needle on it. All right, so we finished that side, did all the weaving in, trimmed that. Here's the other side. I put a needle on my tail side. Okay, let's just take a quick look at it. So just, line it up in a way that looks right to you. And let me zoom in, sorry about that. Okay, so I found that the flush side, to my eye, and keep in mind this is not the only way to do this, but this just to my eye looked good like this. And so one of the things I did is I took a look at it, and what I did on each side wasn't the same exact steps, and that's why I'm showing you both sides. And it really was dependent on how things lined up. So on this side, remember we put the bead after. So we had a bead and we went through the finding, and then we wove over here. Then we went through the finding and we put a bead. That could be in a different order. It could be bead first, then go through the finding. It really depends on how things are stacking up for you. So just take a look. I'm going to give you a few more tips as well here, but when I look at it now, what I'm finding here is that in this case it's reversed. I think it needs to have seed bead first, go through the finding, head over here, and then in this case, once we exit from this up bead, the set of up beads here, maybe we need another seed bead, go through the finding. And so, again, that's reversed from what we did on the other side. On the other side, what happened was we got through these up beads, we went through the finding, and we did the seed bead. And that, for whatever reason, worked on that side. And on this side, it just seems like it should go the other way. And you'll have to feel that out. I want to give you one more tip, just in case it helps. This is pewter. Pewter is pretty soft. You can move these around. If you take some chainless pliers and you grab one of these little prongs, you can gently change the orientation. And I did that a little bit to straighten them out and make them maybe bow in just a little bit more or bow out just a little bit more to fit my design. So you can get away with that. It'll buy you like a 0.01 millimeters. I mean, it's not a lot, but it might be just what you need, right? So let's see how this works. I'm gonna go ahead and pick up an 11-0 and just go through the finding. And sorry, I flipped that. I didn't mean to flip that. So 11-0, go through the finding. So that's just what we've done so far. Tail side coming out of that bead, 11-0 finding. We want to go through the next two up beads right here. And go through these next two. Okay, now come through these next two up beads. And have a look. First thing you want to do, press this edge in just a little bit so you get a good estimate of how it's going to sit. And then take a look. See what I'm seeing here? I'm seeing the bead needs to go first on this side. So I'm going to grab an 11-0 and I'm going to select for, most delicas are about the same. I mean, there's not a lot of variation. However, once in a while you get a skinny one. And so I'm going to pick one that, if you have one in your stash that's actually, even this one looks even smaller. Let's see here. Yeah, so here's an even, every once in a while you get what you need, right? So here's a little skinnier delica. You do get a little tiny bit of variation. You won't notice it unless you're looking for it. When you need it and it's there, it's really cool. So pull through there, and there we go. See how that just worked? And I don't really know why. I had to do a little bit of playing and finessing, but it worked. And so going through the next one here, and there you go. So is it perfect yet? No. I'm going to do another little streety outy thing on that side. Over here, I'm going to come through and turn around. And so just come through here. And then through the one that's next. It's right here. And we're going to do that thing where we do the circle, right? So go back through these two. And then back through these two. And that's all working out. So far, so good. Tighten that up. Oops, I'm losing my needle. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Okay. Need to travel. Travel through whichever of the two you like. And I'm going to spin my beads in my fingers. See how I'm doing the spin thing? Getting that turn that I did here to settle where the thread doesn't show. Okay, keep going. Next 2 seed beads right here. Next 2 right here. And now we're at the edge. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing I did before when we were working the other side. Come through finding the seed bead that's there. Let's come back through those 2. And then back up through this one. And then one last little optional thing, if you want to, is you can go back through just the 1. It can be a little tricky to get through just 1, but you can get through the 1. Pull that down. And then again, a little tricky, but we're going to try to get through this one without warping its position too much. And there you go. Because for some reason, for me, it was more important for me that this side one was flat, and then this in here just didn't bother me as much. This did, and that didn't. So, but it's to your eye. It's your design and whatever you like. And like I was saying before, if you prefer just to do a button on these and hang tight till we get that 11-0 finding out to you, that works too. I even toyed with the idea of maybe taking like a file and filing these down by maybe 0.02 millimeters to see if I could get it to work with an 11-0. But 11-0s tend to be about 1.1, and this is a 1.4 in width. So these are all just my thoughts as I go working along. Okay, so weaving in, one of the things I do is I try to get away from the thickness area. This is a thickness area. We did a lot of stuff. So I was just doing that little trip down this way, and now I'm just going to go through a few in this direction, because all of this is really free down here. There's not a lot of passes. So it's nice and easy to weave through. And I can get some good turns. There's that. Get through those. Oh, go through 2 there. That's crazy. There we go. One more. Let's do something here. I'm going to go through this one. Another little trip around. I go a little bit extra when I weave in on designs that I think I might give away or gift or sell or anything like that. It can't hurt, right? You know, you can weave in an extra trip, and even though it probably didn't need it, and it's probably overkill, I sleep better selling a piece if I've did that. And so it's what I do. So here's flush cutter. Again, where did I put my flush cutters, guys? The last one. Oh, they're here. Okay. I'm just going to trim that. Push down, pull up. All right. Get this out of the way. Let's zoom out a little bit. So there we go. He's all set. I hope you liked it. I hope that you're okay with the fit on that. You know, it's kind of, we just try things, right? We see if it works. And if you like it, great. If you don't, there's beautiful buttons. You can see some in my shop if you'd like to try those. And here is the other one. You'll want to put a finding on the end. So, oh, looks like my jump ring got caught there. Okay, so you might want to put like a lobster claw, a toggle, anything you like, and some jump rings to finish it off. But there it is.